What is going on, everybody? Lamont at large. Today we're at the St. Joseph Cemetery here in Hays, Kansas. Missing you today. Every time I listen to Love Song by Tesla, tears roll down my face. I know you're happy in heaven, and I'll see you again one day, and we can sing and dance again. Love you. We're going to go back in time to September 21st, 1933. We're in Hays, Kansas. Downtown Hays, to be exact. And 42-year-old Fred Arnold, father of 6 children. It's just another day as a bank teller, what they used to call a bank cashier. He goes to work, and it's just literally another day here in Kansas. But this, unbeknownst to him, would be just no ordinary day. Around 3 p.m., as the bank is conducting business, a group of 4 individuals, you can call them robbers, you can call them bandits, whatever you want to call them, they stormed the bank, they pull out their guns, and they let everybody know this is a robbery. Do exactly as you're told, and nobody gets hurt, but only if you do what you're told. So they instruct the bank cashiers to empty all the drawers, all the money in the vault, everything. So they fill up their bags with money. Now, not all plans go according to the plan. So somehow or another, a couple of citizens recognized that there was a robbery going on, and one of them had a gun. So when one of the bandits tries to exit the bank, somebody takes a shot at him. So they run back in the bank, and they're like, hey, somebody outside has a gun. So immediately, the 4 individuals, they take a couple of the cashiers and some customers hostage. So they lead them out through the back of the bank around the corner to their waiting vehicle. And they tell them, this is what you're gonna do. And all of a sudden they hear somebody yell, police, police. Now you got a cop on the scene. And I'm sure these guys are getting pretty nervous. So they tell the customers and the bank cashiers, this is what you're gonna do. If you don't listen exactly to what I say, we're gonna kill you. Stand on the running board of the vehicle. So the 4 or 5 individuals that are on the running boards, they make them stand there. They said, if you jump off the running board as we're driving away, we're gonna kill you. So they used this tactic. That way, when they exited the alley, that the police and the citizens that were armed wouldn't shoot at them, because then they would shoot their hostages, in a sense. So they exit downtown Hays, and the people see that they have the hostages on a running board. Now, I'm not exactly sure if the police gave chase, but the bandits were actually able to get away out of town. So they stop to let the hostages off the running boards of their vehicle. I do not know why. I don't know if Fred put up a fight, but in the process, he was shot in the leg. I'm not sure if he was shot in the leg in the bank or when they were letting off the hostages. He gets shot in the leg. He falls to the ground. And the last thing that anybody heard was that the bandits were on a road heading south, and more than likely police believe, and I don't know why, maybe they seen a license plate, but they believe that the bandits escaped into Oklahoma, and I'm not sure if they were ever caught. So a simple leg wound, you would think that, well, he was lucky to escape, with his life, and he made it to the hospital and all that good stuff. But sadly, that is not what happened. So they take Fred and they rushed him to the hospital. And Fred would stay in the hospital for, I want to say, about a week and a half or so. And just 2 days after his birthday, which by then he would have been 42, so he was 41 at the time of this murder, he died from his wounds. And not too sure if the guys got caught or whatever, but a sad case of people taking what doesn't belong to them, and it ended up costing this man his life and 6 children their father. Edwin Schumacher, born February 27, 1924, entered service June 1st, 1944, died in the service of his country at Okinawa Island May 18th, 1945. He stands in the unbroken line of patriots who have dared to die that freedom might live and grow and increase its blessings. Freedom lives, and through it he lives in the way that humbles the undertakings of most men. Stephen Frederick Burkhart died on June 30th, 1960. Only 13 years old. He died when he was riding in a vehicle with 9 other kids. So there was 10 people in one vehicle, and they were going to a drive-in movie theater to celebrate the birthday of one of them. And 4 teenagers died altogether in that terrible accident, including Edith Ann Sack, 17, Colin Parker, 14, and Lois Claus, 15. This is yet another sad story of somebody trying to beat the train. Jacob DeChant was a truck driver. He was hauling produce through town, and on June 15, 1970, he met the wrong end of a Union Pacific freight train. 6-year-old Robert Hasselhorst, son of Mr. and Mrs. Norbert Hasselhorst of Route 1 in Hayes, died early today at St. Anthony Hospital of injuries suffered Monday afternoon when he was struck by a car. Sheriff Hilly Schumacher said the boy darted out of the east ditch in front of his home on the Bird Farm Road into the path of a northbound car driven by Miss Margaret C. Worth, 18 years of age, also of Route 1 in Hayes. Miss Worth was alone in the car. The boy was a first grader at St. Joeseph Parochial School. Must be a pretty boring day in Hayes, Kansas. This guy stopped by my vehicle to run my plates. He probably was hoping for a hit, a catch, or something like that. Anyways, there's a reason why he's here, and it's not because of me. Just last Saturday, 32-year-old Sergeant Scott Heyman of the Hayes Police Department, he responded to a domestic violence situation here. 21,000 people population here in Hayes. So it's a bigger town, but a very, very small place compared to a lot of cities that you guys live in. And so he was responding to a domestic violence call, which is one of probably the most dangerous call you can respond to as a law enforcement officer. So back last Saturday, I believe it was September 27th, 911 received a call from a neighbor saying that a woman was trying to get out of a home here on the 2200 block of Downing Street. About this time, I want to say it was around 11 p.m. And the man involved in the situation, which I don't know his name, I guess his name is not important right now, he was blocking her from leaving the home in her vehicle. So she ran out into a neighbor's home to call 911. So Sergeant Heyman, along with a member of the Kansas Highway Patrol, they arrived at the scene. The suspect would open the door, and now basically you have a kind of a standoff, a situation where he won't come out of the house, and so they kind of cordon off the streets. And a few hours later, it's about 2 a.m., and all of a sudden one shot rings out, and Officer Heyman was struck. Immediately they airlifted him to the closest trauma center to Hayes, and unfortunately he did not survive his injuries. He would be the fourth Kansas law enforcement officer to die in the line of duty, and I want to say 4 of them died in somewhat quick succession. It might be the last 7 weeks off the top of my head. I'll make a correction if I'm wrong on that. But it just kind of goes to show that, you could be a cop, you could be a deputy, a marshal, even a park ranger in the smallest of towns, and you're always got to be on guard. And that's why I tell you guys, sometimes I do say this just to kind of remind you guys that, when you get pulled over by a cop, or they come up to your house, or, maybe a neighbor is complaining about the noise, practically all of the time that this happens, they don't know who you are, but you pretty much know who they are. So there was about 3 unidentified law enforcement vehicles here, and there was a tractor, and they were right here, and they were digging a grave. And I can only guess that Officer Heyman is going to be placed right here. Again, I could be wrong, but I don't know why three law enforcement vehicles with about 7, 8 guys standing around, official-looking guys, would be here at the same time. So right by now, his body has been transported from Wichita. That might have been where they did the autopsy back here. And they're going to have, I want to say Tuesday, they're going to have some kind of procession here. But, yeah. Again, could be wrong if he's going to be placed there. I just seen a bunch of cop cars right over there, and then they were all standing in this area where the tractor was. This definitely caught my eye. I want to say that I've never seen a marker that looked like this before. Leland worked for the Kyle Railroad for about 40 years, so it kind of shows you that his job was a very, very big part of his life. I just wanted to get a closer look up close of it and show you guys how cool it looks. It caught my eye from way across the cemetery, so I had to walk on over to show you this awesome looking grave marker. Rest in peace to Leland Newell. Our next story makes me thankful that I was not born in a small town like Hayes, Kansas. You got to think, if you're from a big city and, the dating scene is very robust in big cities because there's millions of people, if not maybe hundreds of thousands. But in small towns like Hayes, 20,000 people or so, the dating scene probably sucks. There's probably one guy who's a D-bag and all the girls want him because all the girls love bad boys. And then you got the girl who's being chased by 10 guys. So sometimes when you meet a girl, you might like them more so than usual because there's really not a whole lot to choose from. So back in February 1979, at the Hayes American Legion Club was a woman that worked there as a bartender. Her name is Marjorie Turley. Now, Marjorie Turley, by this time now, she's on her second marriage, and she is estranged from her husband, Gary Turley. Now, before she married Gary Turley, she was married to a man named Leonard, and they had 5 children together. So they would get a divorce. She goes to Gary Turley, and for some unknown reason, things are not working out for them. So she's bartending at this American Legion Club, and she meets a guy named Daryl Stab. I've seen a lot of the name Stab on a lot of these markers here, so it must be a big family name here in this area, part of Kansas. So Daryl Stab, he had just started an automotive business with his brother Lambert. I forgot what he did before that. So they started business, and having a mechanic shop here in Hayes could be quite lucrative because Hayes is right off of Interstate 70. So I would imagine a mechanic shop here could be pretty busy. So Daryl, meets Marjorie, and they start, they hit it off, if you will. They start talking, and they developed a friendship, and the friendship would grow closer and closer until they started having sex. In case you guys don't know, they start having sex. And now she's still married to Gary Turley, but so she would go to his house. Maybe they would get a motel here and there. Eventually she separates and she moves out of the home, and so she rents a house on the outskirts of Hayes. So for the next few months, he's going to her house, she's going to his house, and you would think they're hitting it off, so to speak, but sometimes people can hit it off just based on the principle of sex, which they're both sexually compatible, but they're not compatible when it comes to other things, which might be the situation here in this story. So for about the next 6 months, Daryl and Marjorie, they're a thing. However, another Gary enters the spotlight in October of 1979, Gary Mayfield. And Gary Mayfield meets Marjorie, and they would hit it off. And they would start a relationship, and they would start having sex. Now, by this time, Marjorie is dating both guys, if you will. But she's starting to see Daryl less and less. Now, when she would go to the repair shop, which she would always come by at least 4 or 5 times a week to just see him and say hello, she's starting to come a little bit less and less. A little bit less and less, and less and less. And Daryl finds out, maybe she tells him, maybe he finds out through the grapevine that she's dating a new guy, Gary Mayfield. So, Marjorie, she moves out of her home and moves in to Gary's home. And they're continuing their relationship. And however, Marjorie is continuing to see Daryl Stab on the side, but it's getting less and less. Less and less. Now, when she was married to Gary Turley, she was sleeping with Daryl. However, she hadn't got a divorce from him. But now that she's messing around with Gary Mayfield, she then proceeds with the divorce from Gary Turley. So she has a new Gary in her life. Now, Daryl, at first, he didn't take the news too badly. Not at all. No. He was, feigning happiness. I'm sure he was sad because he really liked Marjorie. But she just told him, hey, listen, I met this guy. I really like him. And I hope you understand. He's like, yeah, sure, I understand. Of course I understand. So she eventually cuts off all ties with Daryl Stab, and so be it. And then he finds out the heartbreaking news, and that news is that they're getting married. They had decided over the course of the fall, winter months to get married. So they're planning their marriage, and they're going to get married on August 8th of 1980. So as the date gets closer and closer, Daryl is getting sadder and sadder. Now, when he goes to hang at the Legion Hall, or one of the few bars in town, he's putting on a facade. He's telling everybody, I'm happy for them. I'm sure Gary's a good guy. I wish Marjorie all the best, so forth and so on. And then he runs into Gary Mayfield at the Legion Hall, and he goes up to him, taps him on the shoulder, and says, "Hey." And Gary knows who Daryl is, so he goes, "What's up?" He goes, "Listen, Marjorie's a great woman. You're a lucky guy. The best man won." And Gary, he's touched that Marjorie's former bang said that hey, you seem like a good guy. You got a good job. I want to say he worked for the railroad. Don't quote me. I think he did. But he had a pretty good job. And so Gary tells him, "Listen, man, there's no reason why we can't be friends. And, you're more than welcome to come over and, hang out and drink a beer with me whenever you want. Come on over. Mi casa es su casa." And Daryl's like, "All right, cool. So you fast forward to the date of the wedding. It's August 8th, 1980. And Daryl is at work at the shop, and he can't do anything right. He's having a bad day. You ever have those bad days, like when you it's like all of a sudden it's bad when you start misplacing things? He's in the shop. He's can't seem to get started on work, and then he starts screaming, "Where's that scanner at? Where's that scanner at?" And he's just like, it's right in his hand, and he's so into his own head because the woman that he is in love with is marrying another man. Now, about 2 weeks before the wedding, he had seen Marjorie to kind of congratulate her, and he says, "Listen, I just want to let you know that if Gary mistreats you or does anything at all whatsoever to you, I'm gonna blow him away." And she says, "Daryl, you don't have to do that. Gary's a great guy, and listen, I love him, and whatever." So that's just a bad day, and he's a zombie. He's a shell of himself. And his brother Lambert, he said, "Listen, man, you can't work like this. This is you're kind of affecting everybody's work." He goes, "Let's just close the shop early for the day. I'll have Rita go get us some beer, and we'll just kind of sit in the office and talk." And that's what they did for the next 4 to 5 hours. Lambert's wife Rita brings them a case of beer. There's a bottle of tequila there, so they start pouring shots, and Daryl starts pouring out his heart to his brother. about just everything, about how he's affected, how he's so sad that the wedding is going on. So they talk until about 9 p.m. and then Lambert says, hey, I'm going to, head home now. So at this time now, Daryl is in the office and he's just staring at an empty can of beer. So his two friends, Ken and Norman, they come into the office and they're like, hey man, what's going on? Now they already knew that his mood, his depression is getting worse and worse and worse. They were supposed to enter some hog contest at the local fair that was going on in town, and they couldn't get in because he wasn't wanting to participate in it. So one of the guys is telling Daryl, like, man, you gotta snap out of this, dude. Like, you've been all like depressed and moody for the last month, man. Just, dude, we couldn't join the best hog in Ellis County contest because you're all sad over a dumb woman. Man, you gotta cheer up, man. She's getting married and that's all there is to it, cat. So they go to Dillon's. It's a supermarket. It's actually right on this street right here. I think it's about a half a mile down over there. So they go to Dillon's and they go shopping for groceries. So they both, Daryl drives his truck and Ken is in his car with Norman. So they go and they get some groceries and then Daryl gets some beer. And so Daryl says, hey, you guys want to come on over? We can just chill out. He's like, all right, cool. So they leave the car, Ken's car, or Norman's car, at the Dillon supermarket, and then they hop in Daryl's truck and they head over to his house. So they go to his house and they're drinking and then just kind of, talking about whatever. And then Daryl goes inside. They're sitting on the porch at this time. He goes inside and he comes back out holding a rifle and a shotgun. He puts the guns in the back of his truck. He turns around, goes back into his home, and comes back out with a couple of handguns. And Ken's like, man, what the hell are you doing, man? And Daryl says, well, I heard that they're having a beer party at the park, so I'm going to go over there and say hello. And they're like, no, you're not, dude. Man, you're acting stupid. And Daryl, he's quite proud of his shotgun. And he shows it to one of the guys. He goes, I love this gun. And he fires it in the air. Bang! Right in the air. And now these two are getting nervous. This guy's unhinged. And he goes back inside to get more guns. And this time now, like, one of the guys, he says, listen, man, you're not going anywhere. You're drunk. By this time now, guys, he's been drinking for about 7-8 hours now. He said, you're freaking drunk. You're going to do something stupid. You're going to hurt yourself. You need to calm down. Daryl picks up his 44 cal pistol. I think it was a Ruger. And he tells Ken, he's like, hey, you ever shot this one? Did I ever let you shoot my gun? He goes, man, you should try. He goes, you'd love this gun. And he goes, man, put that gun away. So Daryl, he points the gun right into the darkness and pow! Just fires it right into nothing, into the darkness. And then they both just start grabbing the guns from the back of his truck and they just start bringing the guns inside. One of the neighbors calls Daryl and is like, man, what the hell are you doing, man? Are you shooting guns out there? And Daryl's like, nah, man, we're just, he's all drunk, slurring his words. He's like, nah, man, we're just popping firecrackers or whatever he's saying. So they bring all the guns inside and then they hop in the truck and then they go back to Dillon's again because Daryl wants to get more beer. They get to Dillon's and they said, Ken was like, listen, man, I don't think you should be drinking anymore. How about we do this? Why don't you come to my house? I'll make dinner. By this time now, it's about 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning. And he goes, just come to my house. I'll cook us something to eat for dinner. And then we could just, man, talk this out, man. And he's like, all right, cool. So Ken and Norman hop in one of the guys' car, and they tell Daryl, okay, just follow me to my house. So they pull out of the parking lot, but they don't realize it until like maybe about a minute later after they pull out of the supermarket that Daryl's not behind them. No, Daryl's not behind them because Daryl, he has his own ideas about what he's going to do. So instead of hanging a left, he hangs a right, goes down the road. He's going to the park where they're having that beer party for the after wedding festivities. So Daryl, drunk as a skunk, gets out. He shoves that 44 cal Ruger in his waistband and he starts stumbling to the party. When he starts stumbling to the party, by now, I didn't mention it earlier in the story, but this is about the second or third time that evening that he's kind of gone to the party to kind of check things out. And now people can obviously see that he is drunk, and now things are getting a little bit uncomfortable. So Gary Mayfield and Marjorie Mayfield now, they've been married about 7-8 hours, and they see Daryl stumbling out of the truck, like stumbling, like staggering, can't even walk. So Marjorie says, let's just get out of here. I just want to avoid a confrontation with him. So they leave, they skedaddle. And Marjorie's sister like pops out. She's like, what the hell are you doing here? Nobody invited you here. You're not wanted here. You're drunk. You're acting stupid. And then she notices that gun, and several people, they notice that gun as well. And then they kind of just start walking away. People just start leaving the party because now it's no longer a party. This is becoming an uncomfortable situation, a dangerous situation. So now people are starting to leave the park. And Marjorie and Gary, they already left and they went home. So Daryl stumbles back into his truck and is just staring out of the windshield. And he starts his truck and he starts to drive home. But he says, nah, screw that. So he starts heading towards Gary's house. So he gets out of his truck, parks, stumbles up the porch steps, and starts knocking on the door. Inside, Marjorie and Gary, they're like, what the hell is that? And then it turns from a knock to a bang. And then she looks out the window. She's like, it's Daryl. And Gary's like, man, what the hell is he doing here? It's like 1:30 in the morning. So he, puts on his pants. He ain't wearing no shirt. And he starts walking to the door, and Marjorie tries to stop him. She goes, just leave him alone. He'll go away. As soon as she says that, Daryl opens the door to this guy's house and just kind of waltzes in, and he says, hey, Gary, remember when you invited me, when you told me that, mi casa and su casa, and you said I can come and stop over anytime? Well, what better time than now? And Gary, he looks at him. He's like, man, get the hell out of my house, man. You're drunk. Get out of here. Now, I don't know if at this time now Gary Mayfield knows that Daryl Stab has a firearm on him, but he starts like chastising him, admonishing him. He it doesn't grab him, but he's kind of like patting him on the back and leading him outside. He goes, man, listen, man, you're drunk, you've been drinking, man. You're scary Marjorie, her mother's inside. Man, you need to calm down, man. Just go home and sleep this off. So he walks him down the porch steps to his truck. He turns around and starts walking up the steps. Daryl pulls out his 44 cal and shoots 3 times. Pop, pop, pop. One shot misses, but 2 shots, they find its mark and hit Gary right in the back. He falls down on the steps onto the concrete. Marjorie hears the shots and she comes out, and she's like, she sees her new husband bleeding, and she's like, what the hell did you do? What the hell did you do? And Daryl, as calm as all get out, just says nothing and turns around, walks slowly to his truck, goes home. He goes home, and the first person that he calls is the house where he just shot Gary. So Marjorie's mother answers the phone, and he says, is Marjorie surprised? And the mother says, well, yeah, because you just shot her husband. And he goes, well, she could be happy now that he's no longer going to be around. She hangs up on him. He calls back again. Somebody else in that home answers, and he can hear commotion. He can hear Marjorie screaming. He calls a third time. He keeps calling the house where he shot this man, and they don't answer the phone. Then he calls police dispatch, and he tells the dispatcher, hey, I want to report a shooting. Gary Mayfield just got shot, and I'm responsible. I'm the one that did it. I'm Daryl Stab. I shot him. So the dispatcher relays the call to the sheriff, I guess he's sleeping at the time. He wakes up and he calls Daryl, and he goes, "Did you really do what you said you did?" And he could hear it now on the radio. He's like, "Yep." He goes, "I shot him. I'm responsible." By the time the paramedics attend to Gary's wounds and take him to the hospital, he was already dead. And so the sheriff goes to Daryl's home and places him under arrest and charges him with first-degree murder. So he takes him to the Ellis County Jail, and he's going to sit there while he awaits trial. Now, I don't know if he was able to bail out, but he ends up pleading guilty to second-degree murder, and he receives 15 to 50 years in prison. Now, oftentimes, a lot of these stories, you can't find out exactly when if they got out of prison. So I couldn't really see, just from me, like looking the story up, whatever happened to Daryl Stabb. I was actually seeing if he had possibly died and if he was buried here, but I haven't seen anything yet as me walking around the cemetery. This is the grave of Gary Lee Mayfield, and as you can see, their wedding date, August 8th, was his birthday. And I was wrong about him working for the railroad. No, he worked for an oil rig company, because you can see the oil derrick right there. So, only married 8 hours and shot and killed by a drunk guy living in a small town with slim pickings, possibly when it comes to women. He finds a woman he likes, and he can't get over the fact that she doesn't reciprocate the same feelings, and he takes this man's life for none other reason than just jealousy. Just jealousy. Okay, guys, it's about 2:30 p.m. I've been here for about 3 hours. It's time to hit the road. A story came up in my searches, and I want to get to that town before it gets dark, because I got to get from here to that area, and then I got to get to Great Bend, and I want to try to do everything before it gets dark. So hopefully in the near future, I won't be traveling so fast, and I'll get to do more of an in-depth video at this cemetery. But guys, I want to thank you for watching my videos, and I'll catch up with you later. Peace out.